first week of April in 1968. Claude Sitton, who was the editor of National News at the New York Times, called me to his desk. And he said that Martin Luther King Jr. lost control of his people and that King had to be stopped. He said, I want you to go down there to nail him. He said he's going back to Memphis. King had led a march in Memphis about a week or so before this, and that march ended in a lot of rock and bottle throwing, riot, bottle breaking, and one kid got killed. But as it happened, King's people later explained to me that that really wasn't King's march. King was supporting the garbage workers down there, and he arrived at the last minute, and they just put him at the front of the march. And he was sort of set up because people in the back of the march had some other agenda, and they were trained in the nonviolent. Wasn't King's march. So King was bound and determined to come back to Memphis to have another march to show that his people, that he did have control of his people, and that they were disciplined, and that they were advocates of nonviolence. So my editor, going off the basis of this first march, told me, I want you to go down there and to nail him. He said, I want you to stay you call his people, find out where he's staying. Wherever he's staying, that's where I want you to stay. And he said, I want you to get down there early, so you got the lay of the land. And I went south. It was the first time I went into the deep south to cover a story in my life. And I took that assignment because I wanted to get over my fear of the South. Well, I was working briefly at the New York Post. They sent me down there once, and I was going with another reporter from the New York Times. He got sick. He wouldn't go. I told my editor, I'm not going. I wouldn't go. It was another march King was leading. So I went down to Memphis. And as it happened, on that Thursday, when twilight was gathering over the Lorraine Motel, which was was an old black motel. And that's where King was staying. And so, as my editor had said, that's where I was staying. And I was the only reporter there at that moment when Dr. King was assassinated. As a matter of fact, at that evening, that night, it was the biggest story in the world. And I had an exclusive on it. It's something I'm very proud of. Well, I say proud of. I should say I'm proud that I was the reporter. If had the paper known that King was going to be assassinated down there, I'm sure they weren't going to send me. But I was proud that my reporting had me enabled me to be positioned in that way at that time. I'm glad that I was the reporter who was there. Even yet, today, all these years later, the principal work that I'm doing involves a book that I'm writing about what happened in Memphis. I used to think, and it especially came from those riots from my period when I came to the New York Times that first year. That's what I was. I covered riots all over the country. Well, that was the summer. There was more riots broke out in that summer probably any in the history of this country. And so I used to go to these places, and people would say, there's a riot in Detroit. Well, by the time you get out there, it's a day or so later. And people say, oh, geez, you should have been here yesterday. Or you should have been here last night to see what this happened. Or and so you got to I've become obsessed with this idea of being there. I used to actually just pray. Please, just one time, let me be there when something really important happens. And then I can see for myself. I can see, and I'll know, and I can tell the truth about that. And as it happened for me, that moment for being there was when King was killed in Memphis. And I'm still involved in the telling of that story.